Thomas here with Much Props. Going to give you another how-to video. A few weeks ago I put a poll asking you which helmet you think I should build for my Fallout cosplay, and it was pretty close until about last week when YouTube decided to stop taking polls anymore. And at the time, the synth-filled helmet was in the lead, so that is the one that I'm going to build today for you. So template down in the description below the video. If you want to build along with me, you can. Today we are building the synth-filled helmet from Fallout 4. Let's get to building. So we start our build off by making the helmet base first. I don't have the mask part figured out just yet, so I need a reference point to base the rest of the helmet off of. This is a nice shaped base that goes to about the ear level. I'll probably use this as a starting point for some other builds in the future. Cut out the template and trace it onto your materials. I am using 6mm EVA foam. To get the curve on the top of my helmet and make sure that the seams aren't pulling apart when I glue them together, I heat form the base around something circular. I've had a lot of people ask if they can use a hairdryer instead of a heat gun. The answer is no. My heat gun gets up to like 1200 degrees. Hairdryers just don't get hot enough to really make the foam pliable so that you can mold it. Base assembly is pretty simple. Apply contact cement to all the edges, close up the darts, and use the registration marks to help you line up the three pieces. I also get asked if this could be made out of cardboard a lot. My templates are generally made for foam builds, not to say it can't be done out of cardboard, but you would need to add a lot more darts to any parts that are round so that you get a nice rounded effect instead of jagged angles. If you look at the top, I have the pattern oriented to how they correspond with each other. There are a lot of angle cuts on this mask. Blue highlighted edges means an inward 45-degree angle cut, and a green highlighted edge means an outward 45-degree cut. I put the right and left sides together, then join them with the middle and bottom pieces. Trust the registration lines. The part labeled nose strip is what connects the two halves together, and then the part labeled under chin helps to pull the mask into shape. The mask without the helmet base might make for a cool mempo that could be a custom build later on. The mask only has two small points that connect to the base. I use landmarks on the base to help me line it up. The top of the mask should line up where the helmet tilts forward at a 45-degree angle to the forehead. The bottom of the mask should barely overlap the beveled edge on the bottom of the helmet base. The forehead overlay needs to be heat formed into shape so that it lays down properly on the top. I use some 10mm EVA to give it a nice raise off of the helmet base. The middle slit technically should have the visor behind it, but I left mine attached and just painted it black. I was worried that the helmet might warp if I cut that piece out and tried to get the glue up perfectly later. Now I just start adding details to the helmet. It has some pipes that sit on the front of the mouth, so I glue down circles for the pipes to come out of, and there is a plate that the pipes sit on down at the bottom near the chin. To make sure that my pipes have a good connection, I drill into the pieces I just added for them to sit in. Drill in with a stone bit, then simply super glue the EVA dowels into place. I also went in and added a thin 2mm strip on the jawline to add another little detail. I used a wood burner with some flat bits to burn in the lines that go across the face. Make sure that you wear a respirator and work in a well-ventilated area while you do this. The fumes are not healthy to breathe in, and they let off a very foul odor. My synth has been through a lot of stuff, so I need to give him a lot of battle damage. I do all of mine with a stone bit on my rotary tool. Using the bit at an angle, it gouges into the EVA and gives some nice lines in the helmet. You can use this step to hide seam lines by making scratches go over them. This step also makes your paint job easier later when adding washes. Two coats of Plasti Dip. I ended up using white because I decided at the last second that I was going to stick with the in-game color scheme. The in-game helmet has an off-white color to it, and Platifix just so happens to have a color that's pretty close that they call desert sand. I sloppily put down the first coat with a chip brush and then come back with a nice brush to get rid of all the brush strokes. It takes about 2 coats to get a nice coverage over the whole helmet. Now to pick up on all that battle damage that we put in earlier, I used some shades of brown and a little black to all the lines and holes I gouged earlier. Then I come back with a paper towel and wipe away the high points. If you get too much in an area, wet the paper towel and it'll rub off a little better. I probably made about 5 or 6 passes until I was satisfied with the random dirty spots all over. And we are finished. Here is the end result. I know originally I'd said, well, I'll just give it the same paint scheme as my suit of armor, but after I started building it, I realized pretty quickly, even if I painted it in the rusty silver, it still really wouldn't go with the aesthetic of the actual armor itself. So I thought I'd go ahead and build it anyway, since this was the top choice, so that you got a template out there if you'd like to make it yourself. You may also notice behind me that I went ahead and made the other 3. I built 4 helmets in 3 days. So I do have the combat armor helmet, I have the mutant helmet, and I have the disciples helmet back there. I'll have those within the next week or 2 put out there so you can get the templates for. I'm kind of leaning towards either the super mutant or the bladed. Because they are already in the aesthetic of kind of scrap metal pieced together, which is what my armor suit looks like anyways. But overall, I think this is definitely a pretty cool build. There is something that I want to point out. The visor that I chose to use for this was just little pieces that I had. I didn't really show that in the video, but it's just the same as all the other visors. You glue it in behind and all that. Because I had little pieces, I had to go in with some foam and add a little bit of trim on there. So because I had broken pieces, I went ahead and made it look like the shield had cracked through, that way giving it the aesthetic of being battle damaged while at the same time using the materials that I had available to me. Maybe you will try and make this synth helmet yourself and impress your friends with your ability to make something for a group of underground robot-dwelling androids. Yeah. I mean, it's Shaun. Maybe you'll get some...
Yay!
And inevitably, they're going to ask you, how'd you make that? You can give them one of these. Tell them, much props. It is a very snug fit, but it does go down. Peace out.